Okay, so I am kind of doubling back and redoing the beginning of my first video of the afternoon. So this is going to look a little bit weird, but so I want to give you an idea of what got messed up. And I'm not sure how it did. But in the beginning of the video that you're about to watch, I start my Amish sweetbread. Now, it's a really great bread and it's super easy to make. And the main thing is I really wanted people to see how easy that homemade bread, really is to make. And that's what this is all about. In the very beginning of the video, I kind of got it started with the very basis of what you've got to do with your ingredients when you start with your breads, and that is putting in your water, which is like warmish water. And in that one, it was 2 cups of water, and so it's like just warmish, not hot, not cold, just kind of warmish. And 110 degrees is what they say, but I don't run around putting a temperature gauge in it. But then you put your yeast in it, which was a tablespoon and a half. And then you also put 2/3 of a cup of sugar in it. Now, sugar typically goes in that part of the process in most breads because sugar helps the yeast to do its thing. But this, because it's Amish sweetbread, it's a little bit more. So it's 2/3 of a cup. So where you're going to be able to kind of patch into the rest of it, it'll pick up and show you. But apologize, I'm not really sure what happened. That particular video just like poof, it was gone. Anyway, enjoy 3 videos tonight on bread making, 3 different kinds of bread. So you guys enjoy that, and I hope you learn a lot, and I hope you can make your own bread now, especially while the stores are out of bread. Okay, so my yeast is proofed. I'm going to pull it off of here and show you guys. See if I can. And you see, if you can see how foamy it was, my yeast is ready to go. It wants to make some bread here. Okay, so the next thing that I'm going to be doing is adding the rest of my ingredients. And I'm going to use my dough hook for mixing it, for doing this process. That's one of the great things about using a KitchenAid. It's really perfect for that. Okay, so it's 1.5 teaspoons of salt. Okay, and then it's 1/4 cup of oil. And now I'm going to be adding, it's 5 to 6 cups of flour, and you add 1 cup at a time as you're kind of mixing it in. That's 2. I lose count sometimes. Now, on some of my breads, like the really light breads, I sift the flour first, but I've already gone through and kind of scooped on this and everything. It's not very well packed, so I'm not packing it in. That's 3. This is one of the breads that sells pretty well for me. It's just, homemade bread is just so much better than anything you can buy from a store. And a little bit later, I'm going to be making a couple of the loaves of bread that I do they're great for panini, making panini, but they're also great. One of them, the rosemary olive oil bread, is also really good for having with any kind of Italian meal, spaghetti and what have you. Four. But I'm also going to be making an Italian bread, and it's just like a long loaf, like you think of like with French bread, but it's just softer. It's not as dense as French bread. It's softer, and it's totally yummy. Five. And now I'm going to take a spatula and just kind of pull things down off the side, make sure everything gets combined into the mix here. Once I'm done adding all the flour, and I'll know here shortly whether or not I'm going to need the full 6 cups. I typically do. On this recipe, it is typically the full 6 cups. I just like to watch it. And what you want it to end up with is um, a, a good dough that's not real sticky. Now you'll need additional flour, and if you roll it out, like if you put it on your board to knead it. But this is how I prefer to do it. It's so much quicker and easier. And while it is kneading, and I'll knead it in here if you do it by hand, you're going to do it for like 10 minutes. I'll do it in here for maybe around 5, and that makes it about perfect. Okay, it's definitely going to need all the flour. I can tell because it's still really sticking to all the sides, and that you can definitely tell that way. Always happens. Let me see. It's all over me. Okay, so after I get done, I'll have to clean that mess up. But just to give you an idea of what's next, I'm going to oil up a bowl. Now this is what I use. I just put straight olive oil into here, and then this cool little thing, you just kind of pump it up, and it makes it kind of aerosolized without having to use aerosol cans. So I'm just going to oil down this this bowl really well. And I'm going to put it in here once it's done kneading, and I'm going to cover it with a little piece of saran wrap, plastic wrap, and then I'm going to put like a lightly dampened towel over it, and I'm going to let it sit for an hour while I'm doing some other recipes. I don't like wasting that time, so I'll just move on to some other stuff while I am waiting for my bread to rise. You want it to double, and it will. And then I'll show you guys what happens once it's doubled that hour later. What we do is we punch it down and we separate it. This will make 2 loaves. So separate it and loaf it up, and I'm going to be putting it into these bread pans, which will also be well oiled. And I'll let them sit for another 30 minutes while the oven is heating, and then we will bake it at 350, and I will show you guys that process here in a bit. All right, so I've got bread number 2 over there, bread number 3 started there, and I'm back to bread number 1, Amish sweetbread. And it's time. My timer just went off. It has risen for an hour, and it has definitely doubled. In fact, I can show you very quickly. slowly. Okay, so it's definitely doubled. So what I'm going to do now is punch it down. Now, I'll admit I kind of like to punch things occasionally, but I already did my workout this morning, so I'll be easy on this. Get my rings off of here. And I've already got my 2 loaf pans nicely oiled up with olive oil. And I literally, that's literally what it means. It means punch it down. I'm going to pull it off of the edges, which is not really sticking because I oiled it really well. But since I have 2, I made a double, I made 2 loaf pans, I'm going to pick this up and I'm going to separate it in half. And then I'm going to, now I'm not usually, a lot of people like to be really pretty with these things and all that. I don't care if it's pretty so much. I just want it to be really yummy so that my family can eat it. Especially right now since, you know, all the stores are out of bread and toilet paper for some reason. But I'm going to go ahead and get these into their loaf pans. See if I can show you this. Now I am going to set them back up on the counter, throw a towel over them, and let them sit for another 30 minutes while the oven heats. And it'll heat for about, well, it'll be done by the time they get through rising. It'll give them 1 more additional rise, and then I will be able to stick them in there. And I want to say, let's see here. I forget, too many breads going at one time. They will cook for 30 minutes. And then you put them on a wire rack to cool them once you pull them out. And then I have, let me see if I've got it down here. I do. I have this nifty little thing right here that I use to slice up my bread. Your knife kind of goes down in between each one of those, and it makes your slices, you know, uniform all the way through. So I like to do that once they're completely cool. And then I'm going to go ahead and do this. Then I'm going to move back on to one of my other breads and continue going. By the end of this day, I will have all kinds of cooking videos for you guys. And that should help you out, especially through this time when the stores are picked over because people are freaking out. But also, it should help you out in the future because, like I said before, there is nothing better than homemade bread. The house smells wonderful when you cook it, and it's got such a much better taste. When my kids find out that I'm about to make bread, they're very excited, and my husband as well. So there's really not much better. Now, I try to do the low carb thing when I can, but when I make homemade bread, I've got to have it cheap. So I'll show you what it looks like when it comes out.